Assalamu alaikum and good greetings. So today we'll be watching a video titled Marry for Wives question mark. She finally agrees exclamation mark. This is by Sabil Ahmad. Without further ado, let's watch. Masjid open house.
Tanya, how are you?
I have a question.
Sure.
It's a cultural thing, you know. You know how, well, I have listened too many times that Muslim men can marry several women, usually 4. Is it true? And also, why would that be?
Well, that's a very good question. So the answer is this. Assalamu alaikum, how are you? Good. Alhamdulillah, nice and good to see you. So the question is that can Muslim men marry up to 4 women?
Yes.
Is it true? If it's true, then why, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it is called as polygamy.
Yes.
Marrying more than one spouse,
Yes.
right? So polygamy was common before Muhammad.
So polygamy is the more umbrella term, right? Because under polygamy there's polygyny and polyandry. Which one is which? Because one is one man, many wives, one is one woman, many husbands. The one that is permissible in Islam is just one man with many or up to 4 wives. One woman cannot have more than one husband. So, but of course, when we talk in general polygamy, we talk about Islam permits polygamy. It's just one of those, not the other, right?
Peace be upon him.
Okay.
It was part of every society, by the way. The Christian society, the Jewish society, Mexican society, every society had multiple wives
In the past.
in the past without any limits. So a
Okay.
person can marry more than one without any limit. So what Islam did was 2 things. Islam limited the number of wives a person can marry up to 4. Then
Yeah.
Islam also gave responsibility to the man,
Okay.
saying that if you're going to have more than one, then you're supposed to be doing justice and properly responsible for all of them. If you cannot do that, then marry only one.
Okay.
All right. So that's in the Quran, by the way. So what that does is,
وإن خفتم ألا تعدلوا فواحدة, right? If you are fearful or you're afraid you cannot do adl, you cannot be just, marry only one, right? So that's the verse, right?
it prevents men exploiting women.
Okay.
Suppose if a person has to have more than one wife, then now he knows, I have to provide equally to both the wives and be financially responsible for her and the
Yes.
children, by the way,
Yes.
and do all the justice. And how many men can do that?
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's
So
a really good point, because my husband and I, being Hispanics, we were actually talking about that, because he told me, he said, but they have to be responsible to each one and give the same to each one.
Yes.
While in our culture, unfortunately, men, they only have one wife technically, but they usually have lovers. And
Yes.
the lovers are secondary.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't have the same
Is this the husband
right. They don't give the same respect or the same money or the
or not? Because he come just like he's related, and his smile is like, why is my wife bring forth this question?
same anything. And they usually do it behind the wife. The wife does not even know.
Yeah, see, if
So,
you have this society, even though it says only one wife and one husband,
Yeah.
but it does not restrict
They don't do it. It's not true.
that there are so many, outside
Yes.
mistresses and lovers and
Yes.
boyfriends.
And
The man may be
children
having.
not recognized, and
Yeah.
and the lover, it does not have the same respect in society. So
Yes.
it doesn't make sense. It's kind of hypocrite.
It's
Our
hypocrite.
culture, in a way, is
Yes.
hypocrite.
So Islam gives a safety to the women,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Nobody can touch her, right? I cannot shake your hand. By the way, my wife can shake your hand. I cannot touch your hand out of
Yeah,
respect,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Out of respect. So Islam protects women even for the marriage.
Yeah.
Husband is 100% responsible for the finances, for the home, for the clothing of the wife.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have to go outside and work. She taking of the children, giving them good moral standing. So Islam protects the families and the children and the women.
Yeah.
So in this society, if a man has one more women and one marriage but more women,
Yes.
eventually if the wife finds out he's fooling around, then the marriage may break up,
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
And
yeah.
then what happens to the children?
And it does.
Yeah, and what happens to the children, right? They would be bouncing in between husband and wife. They would not get proper education, no love of the father and the mother. So
Yeah.
Islam solves this problem. Islam says that if you love someone,
In a way, it regulates things that anyway would happen otherwise.
Yes,
But
yes.
It regulates them. And
Anyway would happen from the Quran verse, right? Yeah, it put the, how to say, because you cannot say otherwise would happen anyway, because as a Muslim, if you only have one wife, you cannot have anything else, because if you do not marry the second, you cannot really have any kind of relationship with any other. So you cannot say, because if you say wala taqrabuz zina, right, that's also a direct command. You cannot even approach, you know, because the end where adultery comes in, that begins with you have friendship or whatever at the beginning phase, right? That is even not allowed. So yeah, you cannot, even for those who cannot marry, right, not you know, they do not have money or whatever that probably prevent them from getting married. Islam already gives that you have to fast, right? You cannot say that what to do if I don't marry, this will happen, right? For example, adultery, etc., right? So that verse, it would happen anyway. I don't fundamentally agree with that.
Protects, like you say, the family and the women
Yes.
and the children.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So Islam came to protect the societies. You know, what happens is there's so much immorality out there, right?
Yeah.
People not wearing good things and people lusting after each other, fooling around with each other. Islam stops all of that by saying, if you want to have, you know, intimacy, it's only within marriage,
Yes.
right? So Islam gives morality to the people. So see, what happens is that family is like the main, it's a brick of
Yeah.
the whole civilization, right?
Yeah.
If the bricks are like loose and if they crumble, the whole civilization falls away. So Islam wants to strengthen the families. So to strengthen the families, it wants to protect the marriage.
Yeah.
It wants to make sure that every person is married, it's within a family. That will stop prostitution, that will stop boyfriend, girlfriend things, right?
Yes,
It
absolutely.
stops so many moralities. People don't know that. They think, you know, we are free to do what we want,
Yeah.
but then the society is crumbling.
Yeah.
So that's the reason the solution for immorality is connecting with God, having good, wholesome families within marriage, you know, proper responsibilities.
Yeah.
The child should have a husband, I mean, a mother and a father,
Yeah.
right? So all of these protects the society.
Yeah.
Yeah. Along the way, some images come to my mind where, because sometimes families have this reunion, right? Reunion, or normally in festive season where everyone have a holiday. So normally, like a grandfather and grandmother bring forth all their children and their grandchildren. So you have a big gathering. And I have come across, you know, those who actually married to multiple wives, like 2 or 3. And when they gather around with all the grandchildren, it's like this is one whole village, right? Because with one, for example, he is married to like 3 wives, right? With each, they have 3 or 4 or 5 children, and that's like 15 already. And then under that, so that's like in total almost sometimes 100 plus grandchildren, right? So it's quite interesting scene to see, but they all know that they are family, right? It's not like, you know, if you are, you know that you have the same grandfather, but it's not a proper family structure or whatever, right? That I cannot imagine that, but it is interesting. In our society, in Malay society, I've seen that. I've seen, you know, those interesting picture where, you know, the grandparents have all the hundreds of, some people do not need to have multiple marriage to have hundred of grandchildren, because even my schoolmates, their siblings are like 10, 11. So if you imagine under them as another 10, that's already 100 grandchildren.
Right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes
Thank you
sense?
so much.
Sure. So look into Islam, by the way, because everything which I showed to you, right? All the problems that we are facing,
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
It's interesting,
It
yeah.
was interesting, the connection that you are making from these spiritual rules or to real problems. Yeah.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So that's see, Islam is not just for me and for the Muslims over here. God sent Islam as a guidance for you and your husband, your children, right?
Yeah.
So when you look into it, you know, there are many Hispanic people. They are looking into Islam and they're converting to Islam
Yeah.
because they think, you know what? How can Jesus be God when he was, you know, hungry?
Yeah.
He was breathing oxygen. He was going to washroom.
Yeah.
Why do we take a man to be God? God is God. Jesus used to worship God.
Yeah.
So think about it, you know, and pray to God for God's guidance.
Okay, yeah, so that's the video. Yeah, she just have that one question and she come up front to ask that question. That's interesting. I wonder what would be my answer if suddenly, out of a sudden, some lady comes and asks that question. I wonder if there's a guy that asks that question, because I know that from the perspective of women, like when they ask that question, is sometimes from a place of concern, perhaps. But if a guy comes, because sometimes there's a question and there's a reason behind the question, right? And for those who are being seek advice, sometimes we actually have to gauge what is the reason behind the question as well. This is my perspective, because sometimes some people ask question to use it to justify. For example, a guy come, Muslim can marry up to 4 wives, right? And he want to use that justification to bring to his wife to say that, you know, that the sheikh said I'm allowed. So that's a problem as well, right? Meaning that your innamal a'mal binniyat, right? Meaning your intention to begin with is to use your answer against someone else. That shouldn't happen, right? Yeah. Yeah, thank you for watching. See you next time.